All events depicted in this podcast are real. However, the names, locations, and some details have been changed for the privacy of those involved.
A quick reminder before we begin the episode. If you haven't rated and reviewed our podcast yet, please consider doing it now. It only takes a second and makes a huge difference to us. With that being said, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 8 of Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire, a podcast that above all things is about family. Of all of the hours of clips that I have edited and recorded while putting together this podcast, the one that I think about the most comes just 45 seconds into Episode 1. If you haven't heard it, this is what it sounds like. Ellie, Aria and I have been toying with the idea of putting together a podcast for a while. It's not that any of us have any big ambitions to become podcasters, but when the material presented itself, a podcast seemed like the best medium to express it. It also seemed like more fun than just writing it down in a diary. Ugh, it still makes me cringe. What a fucking pretentious thing to say. Like I'm so amazing that I can slap this podcast together like I could a ham and cheese sandwich. I'd like to say that I was naive, and I really believed what I was saying here. But the truth is, by the time I'd edited that clip in, I knew better. Because while that clip is taken from the first episode of this season, it wasn't the first episode that I'd ever made. I'd actually recorded 2 episodes prior. But they were so bad. They were so bad that Aria has a special name for them.
But you still remember the first episodes we did, right?
The forgotten episodes.
Yeah, the forgotten ones at the start that no one's ever going to see.
Yeah.
These forgotten episodes are like those embarrassing adolescent photographs that you never want to acknowledge, but at the same time, you can't find the strength to toss them away either.
Yeah.
I can't even listen to the first ones.
I wouldn't listen to the first one.
I don't think I'll ever listen to them again. Like, it's so embarrassing.
Yeah, but everyone starts out and everyone starts with something.
I wonder if it's strange that Aria and I have these stronger feelings about these forgotten episodes.
I guess, but...
I mean, it may not be that good, but, you know, like...
Ellie certainly doesn't seem to share the same connection to them. But then again, I never know what the hell's going on inside Ellie's head. Sometimes I wonder if she even knows that we're recording a podcast at all.
Look, I just can't believe that we've been doing this for 2 years now.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's actually a bit more than that. I think it's like 2 and a bit years, I think, even.
Yeah.
Weird.
Because I think it took me a full year to make an episode that I didn't need to re-edit.
Almost like a vlog or something, or not a vlog. What is it? A blog, but
It's not like a vlog, like,
you know, that sort of thing. But yeah,
not really. I mean, it's definitely a podcast.
yes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is though, we have been doing it for 2 years though, so that's crazy.
It's been that long.
Yeah, it's been that long.
While I do find Ellie's lack of awareness regarding the project that we've been undertaking surprising, it doesn't really matter. Either way, the last 2 years have been spent producing, editing, and recording this thing. 2 whole years. Which leads me to the spot that I'm in right now. At the very start of Episode 8 and the finale of Season 1. It's pretty exciting, right? Well, you would think so. But the truth is, I've been having some difficulties with it. In fact, it's been a full month and I still can't seem to get my hands around a topic for this episode. To be honest, I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day, and I'm destined to repeat myself over and over and over again, in a vicious cycle that goes something like this. First of all, I get an idea for the episode. Then I get super excited, and I call the sisters to record.
You guys, everyone's in? Okay, sweet. Is everyone recording?
I've been recording
Okay.
for 20 seconds.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, I'm recording too, obviously, and I think Ellie said she was before.
Mm-hmm.
So we're good. We're good to go.
Yep.
All right, that's exciting stuff. Anyway, so what I wanted to go through today was the.
Did you watch the Rooster video?
No, I haven't listened to it yet.
Watch it. It's good.
Yeah, I definitely will watch it. What I want to go through, like, I think I've got an idea for the episode. Like, I'm thinking that what we can do is that time.
It's usually around this time, while I'm excitedly pitching my idea to the sisters, that I start to second guess myself.
I can spin that into an episode that I think would be pretty good. I think, like, I'm not 100% certain, but I think that's the right, like, it's the right direction for the first time in a month. It's been the right direction, you know. Anyway,
this is the part where the sisters can sense my insecurities about the idea, and of course, choose to exploit it for their own amusement.
Do you have any feedback or anything to give me?
I actually thought he was going to have a little meltdown then.
It was
No,
going to have
I
a
was-
meltdown.
I wasn't going to have a meltdown. I thought it was a good idea. I thought this was the right direction.
Then, with my fragile Cossack ego bruised, I find something to take my aggression out on.
Fucking chair climbs right up my dick.
Jesus.
All right, this chair, it fucks me off so much. It creaks, fucks me right off.
Put some oil on it or something.
Oh, it's just fucked. I need a new chair. I keep fucking saying I need a new chair. It really.
Soon after this happens, one of us will decide that there was no point recording that day, and we'll all agree and hang up.
Do you want me to stop recording? We're going to keep recording.
Let's just stop.
Yeah, I'm going to go anyway.
Which leaves me where I am right now, alone, on my creaky chair, remembering that really pretentious thing that I said on the first episode of a podcast that I made 2 years ago.
It's not that any of us have any big ambitions to become podcasters, but when the material...
When I did finally break the cycle and move forward with an idea for the episode, it was during a reflective conversation between Arya and I.
You want to play with your computer? I'm gonna claw on your gaming chair. Yum, 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 yum,
No.
yum. No.
Terrible.
So what I've been trying to do, been trying to get my hands around this finale. And what I did, I've gone back and I've listened to all the previous episodes now. And the thing that I found is that I didn't realize is they're all about Dad.
It really has every single episode.
You know, it wasn't supposed to be focused on him, but almost every episode is about him. Like, what's with that?
You've got some unresolved issues with Dad.
I don't think so.
You got some daddy issues there.
I don't think it's that. I mean, I think I've got just as much mummy issues as well.
I
but-
reckon if this ever gets really popular, there's going to be Reddit posts about, damn, that Lucas has got some dad issues.
Probably, but I mean, you have to have some issues to spend 2 years making a podcast about your family lives. So it's probably not far off.
He's really got some dad issues.
Yeah. But so listening to the episodes, what I realized is that, well, first of all, I'm not finished with the dad story yet. There's still a lot of stuff to get into there. And I feel like if I'm going to talk about the current batch of crazy stories, it's important that everyone's up to date with where we are at with Dad right now, like the current climate of our relationship. I think that's what I think this episode should be. Like a bunch of
Really deep daddy issue conversation.
oh God, I hope it's not that.
Gotta be that.
It might end up being that though, because when I listened to the episodes this time around, what I really took from it was the progression of that relationship. Like, it goes from him being the guy who literally beats a pedophile's head into the back of a truck repeatedly to protect the family, and we love him for it, to a guy that we accuse of shitting in Ellie's backyard with no concrete evidence, just because, yeah, that's the type of thing he would do. Like, how does that decline in our opinion of him happen? Like, how does it come to that?
I don't know. It's sad.
Yeah, it is sad, because I think until probably 6 or 7 years ago, I still cited him as the most incredible person I'd ever known. I just thought he was amazing. And then it makes me start to think, like, am I just being unreasonable? The guy gets old, and then all of a sudden I just turn on him and think so little of him. Like, that's...
It just became unbearable.
Yeah, he did.
Like, he's not, I don't know, he's not someone that you really necessarily want around that much anymore, which is terrible to say about your own dad, but...
Yeah, but I think that's true, though.
I mean, that's it.
Maybe if we can get some specific examples of things that he's done, or maybe really pointed examples of personality traits that he's showing, and maybe we can put those together, and maybe that'll give us an idea of what's happened with this relationship, and maybe even give us a chance to understand it a little better, maybe mend it a little bit. Like, is there any specific examples you can think of that you think really hurt the relationship between you and Dad?
You tried to have a punch up with Riggins?
Yes. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Riggins is Arya's husband. And yes, Dad did try to punch on with him about a year ago.
Why did that happen? That's what I want to know.
He had issues with Riggins' family.
No, I know. Believe me, I know all about the legendary rivalry between Dad and Riggins' family, and I do want to talk about that at some point because there's some interesting stuff there.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to work out now is more the instigating factor, or the real reasons behind why Dad would try and punch on with Riggins. Like, what led to all of this? What led to the decline? Like, it's really hard to explain, but I think you know what I mean, right? You know what I'm looking for.
Like an emotional overview of our relationship with Dad and its decline.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty close.
Okay.
So maybe what I'll do now is I'll take a couple of days and I'll work out exactly what the question is, and then we'll get back together. We'll do a recording with Ellie, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop now.
Beautiful. I've got some direction. This is great.
Yeah.
Finally, I had some direction. I knew that the episode was going to have to be about the old man. No surprises there. But before I could sink my teeth into the chosen topic, I needed to properly define what that topic was. Essentially, I needed a thesis to base my research on. Of course, I spent some days contemplating and taking notes in the office. But unexpectedly, in the end, inspiration came when I went looking for it outside of the box.
After you start recording, you've got to say, I've been recording for 10 seconds or something like that. You have to say it.
Okay.
I know, it sounds stupid, but it's just this thing that we do, especially Aria. She always does it, so you just got to do it. It's just a thing.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, I've been recording now for 15 seconds.
That is my wife, Lily.
It's official. You're on the record.
And after literally years of bouncing ideas for the podcast off this poor woman, now felt like the right time to get her on the record.
Okay.
Ooh. How does it feel? Does it feel weird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel a bit nervous.
Don't be nervous. There's nothing to be nervous about.
I know.
Just a regular conversation with this asshole.
The asshole that I live with.
That's it. That's me.
I had been trying to figure out a timeline for my relationship with Dad, and when it was that my opinion of him took a nosedive. I seem to think it was 6 or 7 years ago, before I met Lily. I hoped this conversation would be able to confirm this theory.
I think we started dating, I think it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your impression of my opinion of Dad was when we first started dating?
Well, I think you, I don't know, when I met you, you were you didn't talk too much about your family, but then you kind of started telling me a little bit, and then you were telling me how cool your dad is, and told me a few stories about him that I don't remember them now, but
I did talk about him like he was cool. That's interesting. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, you thought he was cool and stuff.
That definitely changes my timeline.
Yeah. And then he called me one day, I was super nervous, and I was like, okay, why is he calling me? It's really weird. And I answered, and we ended up talking for I think an hour and a half or something. And we were talking about all kinds of things. And then when I was gonna hang up, he was saying that I was family now, and if I ever needed someone to talk to, whatever, because I don't have my own family here, then I was I could always call him, and he was gonna be there for me and all kinds of stuff. And I remember messaging you after that and telling you about it, and you were like, yep, that's my dad, that's kind of how he is. And it felt at that point you still thought that he was cool.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that you'd seen that side of him. Yeah, and that it was... So it must be less. It must be less than 5 years ago. I wonder when it was that my opinion of him changed.
Well, it's just the next kind of phone call that he went weird, and then that's when you were like, yeah, it's my dad.
Okay, that sounds about right. So when was that?
I needed help with an assignment, and he's kind of a builder, I guess. And
he can build anything, so yeah.
Yeah, so I needed help with some materials and how to construct a table. So I called him, and he was a bit weird, and I could hear him open a can of something, and I was like, okay, didn't think too much about it. And then that phone call was the weirdest phone call ever, and he was saying things to me that I was like, what the fuck?
What stuff was he saying?
Well, he said like he was talking about what a douchebag you were, like with all these ex-girlfriends, and like what an asshole you were, and like he actually thought that one of your ex-girlfriends was the one, but then you never ended up marrying her, and that just
What the
like,
hell is that?
Yeah, like
that's not even true.
yeah, I know, and like that you weren't being nice to them or something, and I didn't believe him because like I know you, and by then I knew you already. Like,
Do you know what girlfriend he was talking about?
I actually don't know. I've never heard you even mention this person, so
I don't think it's real.
I'm not sure. Yeah, and then he told me, you know, if you have kids, like, you know, I would love to have grandkids, like running around in the kitchen and you know, say grandpa, and like run to me, and like I can play with them and stuff. And he said, you know, if you don't stay together, that's fine, but like kind of like, well, at least I will have his kids, but if you don't stay together, that's fine. Like, just give him the kids and fuck off.
Just rent him out your womb, and then you can go. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was very, very weird. And then I don't think I messaged you about that. I think I told you about it when you came home, and I think I even mentioned to you, I was like, I think he was a bit drunk because he started like mumbling and stuff, and then you were like, oh, that I think at that point you were like, okay, this is like the drunk side of my dad. This is when he's actually weird and stuff. And then I think it was after that you started like more and more kind of think he was changing and becoming weird, and you know.
Something Lily said here resonated with me, and the idea that at the time Dad was changing and becoming something different. The word reborn came to mind, and immediately I knew that I had my thesis for this episode and a direction to take the next sibling group chat.
I was working too.
Are you recording, Ellie? Are you recording yet?
Yes, I'm working now.
You're working. Or
You're working?
recording?
I mean, I'm recording, sorry.
Once Lily had conjured the imagery of Dad changing and a motif of rebirth in my mind's eye, I found myself instantly drawn back to a film that I'd seen years before. I felt that this film perfectly articulated all of my findings. And of course, I was eager to get the sisters' feedback.
Good. You're recording. All right, I'm going to send you a video. So I don't want you to watch it yet, but I want you to get it ready and then go 40 seconds in, because the first part you don't need to see.
All right.
The film that I'm talking about is Red Dragon, directed by Brett Ratner. If you haven't heard of the 2002 crime thriller, it's no surprise. While it was a moderate hit in the Hannibal the Cannibal franchise, it was overshadowed by the superior 1991 entry, The Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, so I've just sent it now to the group chat.
All right, so 40 seconds.
Yeah, get it ready 40 seconds in.
All right. Well, I'm at 42 seconds. It's close enough.
And all right, you got it. You got it, Ellie.
Right, okay, yes.
Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll press play at the same time.
Oh, do I have to I'll get it at 40 seconds then.
Yeah, get it at 40 seconds.
The clip that I'm about to show my sisters comes during a scene about halfway through the film, when the Red Dragon killer, played by Ralph Fiennes, reveals his true murderous identity to a bound and almost naked Philip Seymour Hoffman.
It's exactly at 40 seconds ready to go.
Okay, so everyone's ready to start playing then?
Sorry, I started playing it, so now I'm at 52 seconds.
Every time. What the hell?
You got to pause it and then
Sorry, I
move
thought
it.
you wanted me to play.
Okay, are you ready now?
Wait. Okay, mine's at 40 seconds.
I don't understand why it always has to be so difficult.
I don't know, you've made it difficult. No.
All right. So we'll count. So on three, like 1, 2, 3, and then play. Okay,
Yeah.
ready? So 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
play.
What the hell is that thing?
Do you want to know what I am? More than anything. I was afraid to ask.
In the scene, the Red Dragon flashes through slides on a projector screen, revealing photographs of women while he's in the process of abducting them from their beds.
Do you see now? Yeah, I see. Oh, God. This is Jacoby in human form. Do you see? Yeah.
As the slides continue, the women are shown in varying states of torture.
Yes.
This is Jacoby changing.
Oh,
Do you
my
see?
God.
Oh my god.
This is Leeds changing.
And finally, in death.
This is Jacoby reborn.
Do you see?
Oh, Jesus!
Mrs. Leeds reborn. Do you see?
Please, no.
I wasn't ready
No.
for that.
Okay,
No,
that's
what?
that's all you need to see. You can stop it then.
Do you want us to stop watching?
Yeah, stop watching.
Why did you write lies,
Okay,
Mr.
so-
Lowndes?
Why did you lie?
So it's really just the bit with the photographs there. That's all. So were you paying attention? Did you pay attention to what he was saying?
No, I was a bit horrified by the photographs.
So you didn't get anything from that? No ideas what this could relate to?
It was them changing.
Yes, you got it off the bat.
A+ for me.
So I'm so happy that you got this straight away, because what it showed the victims in human form, and then it showed them changing, and then they were reborn again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I've kind of realized is that I think there was Dad in the human form, and then Dad now is reborn. And what
Put
I'm
into that thing.
As what?
well, who knows? Who knows what? What I want to focus on now is the changing part of it. So not what he's reborn into, and not when he's in human form. I want to focus on the changing time.
This is not another one of these bell curves things, is it?
Explaining my changing theory to the sisters had been satisfyingly easier than I'd expected. And for the first time in months, it felt like I had the three of us all lined up on the same page, eager and ready to put together a timeline for Dad's transition from human form to, well, whatever the hell it was that came next.
Well, I think it is one thing for us to talk about, how Dad was changing or whatever, but do any of us have any rock solid ideas of when it was that this changing period began?
Yeah, so I reckon that's the period where he came back from Russia, and then he kind of started to get sick. Not sick, but his back was bad and that sort of thing. I think it was kind of in between those times.
See, I disagree. I think that's when we started noticing it. I think it was well before then.
You think it was before then? See, I think it's later than then. So I thought it was about 6 years ago, just before I met Lily, when it really started for me. So
Well, I don't know. When him and Mum split, there was definite times that I noticed some things, but I was still like the doting daughter, like, oh, my dad, but I haven't forgotten them, because I think I was right in the center of everything then. They're still there, so they obviously had an impact.
Yeah.
But I don't think that wasn't the start of the changing, right? He was still in human form then. He was just going through a breakup.
I think because he had that period where he was just on his own, just getting drunk with his mates, and he had a couple of random people stay over with him that weren't the best quality of people. They were still alright, but I think, yeah, it was the starting of him becoming who he is now.
What about Bulldog Face? What was that?
That Bulldog Face really was not a good person for Dad to be with.
Yeah, but was he human form or was he changing?
He was still human form, but starting to get to the point where he was that creepy thing that was on your screen, if that's what we're talking about.
Reborn, yeah. Well, but it sounds to me like you're saying maybe the changing started when he was with Mary then.
Yeah.
Up until this point in the podcast, I've been wary of the way in which I portray Dad's longtime girlfriend, Mary, because I know that she's going to play such a monumental part in episodes moving forward. And also because she is a character that the three of us have such a difficult time being neutral about. All of that being said, I'm still not quite ready to dig deep into that story yet. But I will say this. It is my firm belief that the number one catalyst for Dad's transition from human form into the changing phase was his relationship with Mary.
You could be right there, because she did probe into a lot of deep, dark kind of, not secrets, but things that maybe he didn't really want to discuss and never really talked about with anybody.
Well, that's because she worked as a phone counselor for 10 or 15 years before she got together with Dad. And somehow in her head, she'd turned that around to being that she was a trained psychiatrist. So she was always trying to delve into people's psyches and psychoanalyze them.
Because that's what she was interested in and stuff. She used to kind of, probe and ask him for it, or
Well, she was always trying to get him to open up about all of his emotions.
So it You could be right there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she thought she was helping and that she was in some way qualified to help. But by delving into all of his emotions and making him face them or talk about them or whatever the fuck she did with him, it gimped him so hard. And he just became this emotional, self-centered mess that was fucking impossible to deal with.
Yeah, it was the starting of him becoming who he is now.
I feel like a lot of people might hear my take on Mary's attempt to counsel Dad and think it's perfectly justified. They may even think that I'm being unreasonable for criticizing it. And you know what? That may be fair, but it still doesn't change the fact that this is the way I truly feel. And if you do find my opinion on this controversial topic unfairly biased, you probably won't agree with my next opinion either.
The thing that was the most obvious change that I saw was that he started crying all the time, which I hated so much. He never cried before that, and then all of a sudden it was over everything. He was always crying and always trying to get me to cry about things.
The first time that I saw him cry was when I was 16, like genuinely just crying.
About what?
Child support payments.
He was crying about child support payments?
Well,
What the hell?
It's not going to make it go away. You just pay it and then move on.
no.
I need to pay my child support. What the hell?
Well, I'd come over on one of the rare weekends that I would come over, and I'd been getting like a lot of shit from both sides, mum and dad. And then I went over there and I said, like, why are you, like, just pay it? Why are you making this so difficult? And then he's like, I love you, I'm sorry. And then like, oh, and then started like bawling his eyes out. And I'm like,
Was he drunk?
I don't know. I can't.
He had to be.
Yeah, I was going to say must have been, surely.
He probably was, but I don't think I noticed that stuff as much when I was younger.
Please God.
But I'm guessing he probably would have.
Let him be drunk when that happened, because if he wasn't drunk, then that's Then the rebirth happened much sooner.
You sound so disgusted. You're like, oh, ugh.
It, man, I do find it. Well, because it was so anti-crying. The whole thing growing up is like, never cry, never show your emotion.
Well, that's why that memory stuck with me.
Yeah, this is the thing. So he was like, never show your emotions, but then all of a sudden he started to show them, like, and then, yeah, I mean, he started to cry a lot more than, you know, I mean, I can't even speak to him now without him crying.
Well, it was like when I surprised him by showing up at his birthday and he just started bawling his eyes out, like publicly weeping in front of everyone.
See, he would never do that.
No, it would never happen.
No, it wouldn't. But I don't know if that's also associated with, like, when people get older, they get more, like,
Wimpy?
you know, thinking about the past and really like, oh, my life, and, you know, wimpy. And it's not wimpy, it's just like, it's not a bad thing to cry.
I cry all the time. Like, I cry at ads and everything. I mean, I'm a crier.
I will almost cry at the end of every movie that I watch, and I have to stop myself because Riggins looks at me and he's like, are you crying? And I'm like, no, I'm not crying. Shut up.
I literally bawl sometimes, like at end of movies. I literally can't. And kids' movies as well. The kids are like looking at me.
Kids' movies get me every time.
I'm like, what? Ah, and I'm like fully bawling my eyes out, and they're just like, okay, yep.
I think it's been 15 years. Definitely at least 15 years since I cried. It might be closer to 20 years.
All right, Dad, calm down.
You need a good cry. You need a good cry. That's what you need.
Crying's great. Like, if I have a bad day, I'm like, oh, when I get home, I'm going to have a cry and, like, feel better.
So if I called you up on the phone and I was like, how would you be?
Like, loving you're my brother.
Oh, God.
And support you.
But then you'd go to Riggins and you'd be like, hey, Lucas was just crying. And he'd be like, what a sook. Like, you know, like...
Yeah, Riggins would be like, what a fuck bag.
I didn't say fuck bag. Jesus Christ.
Although I do find Dad's crying off-putting, to say the least, I will concede that it's not the worst trait that he could employ in his old age. He's becoming more sensitive, right? A more emotional, touchy-feely version of the staunch Cossack patriarch that I grew up with. Maybe I should accept the changes, you might be thinking. I might even learn something. Well, perhaps hold on to that thought for a minute until we get through some of the other traits that came along with this sensitive, new age dad.
Dad drank a lot even when he was in human form, but then when he was changing, it's
He accelerated
yeah.
the drinking,
Yeah, it was so much more.
and the drinking hours became larger portions of the day.
Yeah, well, he had this rule always that you couldn't drink before midday, so it was no booze before lunch. That was the rule, and he always stuck by it. But in this changing phase, these rules sort of started to get blurry, and he'd be drinking like earlier.
Like when you first get out of bed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but or even more, he offered Bruce a beer at like it was like 9 a.m.
When was that? Was that when you came to visit when he was living with Mary?
I don't know whether we came to visit or whatever or what we were doing,
Okay.
but he was physically drunk. You could see he was physically drunk before that, so he'd obviously been drinking before that. So
See, that's what he was like when he stayed up here with me not that long ago. It's funny because I didn't see much of him back at that time period, but it surprises me that he was that bad back then because when he was here, he was waking up drunk every day. It was crazy. And what I remember thinking on that last visit here was that he was a man who always had such high standards for himself. And it just seemed like he'd just let all of these standards go. And yeah, I don't know. It was definitely a hard thing to comprehend that he could let himself slip that far.
Yeah. And I think he was like a pretty clean person if he knew people were coming over, but then towards the end, I'd come over and he'd have like dirty dishes around and like cans around and stuff. Like he didn't have like that pride in himself anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that too.
well, that's it. And even like I know he came and visited me a few times, and like he had incredibly dirty feet.
What, like a hobbit?
Like he'd always wear. He would like his feet, like they look
like a hobbit's feet.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Looked like he'd been walking around in the mud, and then he'd go and jump in my clean sheets that I've got in my bed, and I was like, oh my god,
Oh my God.
you've got your dirty muddy feet in my bed.
Oh, really?
That's crazy. That mud on his feet is crazy.
They were. You could physically see the dirt on them.
But was it dirt or was it mud though? There's a difference.
But not actually like chunks of mud, but when
Okay.
it's kind of, you've been splashed by some dirty water and stuff like that, that's what it kind of looked like. And it
So it's
dried
not-
up,
it's not-
so it wasn't.
It's not mud then.
But it looked like he hadn't washed for days either. Like,
Yeah.
be like, hey, do you want a shower? Here, here's a towel. Take a towel, go shower. Do you want a loofah to really give yourself a good scrub,
And then you throw that loofah out at the tip.
You'd light the loofah up and it'd explode like a hand grenade.
While Ellie's recounting of Dad's foot hygiene is a valid KPI of his decline, it does seem a little trivial, especially when considering that we are talking about the man who raised us. And it made me start to wonder, were we just being petty and juvenile here? And if so, were any of the points that we had made reasonable?
And I think that's the same with the drinking. Like, he drank, but he always, like, he got tipsy and drunk and stuff, but it wasn't disgusting. And then later on, it started getting, like, you'd see him and it was gross. Like, he's, like, not showered, he stinks. He's got his mud feet, obviously, his hobbit feet. And then the cigarettes just, like, chuffing away.
It's also he got where. Sorry, I'm actually taking like notes down on this. It's sort of weird. I've just got like poor hygiene, loss of pride, dirty feet.
No, it's not dirty feet, it's dirty hobbit feet.
Alright, hobbit feet. I've got like crying,
Yeah.
drinking, smoking. I mean, is this just like someone who's just depressed? Is this what this is? Isn't this what happens when people get depressed?
Yeah, it does.
He was on anti-anxiety, so...
Okay, so he's on any anxiety. I mean, does that just mean we're just being too harsh on him?
Well, I think there was a point where he probably was depressed because he could barely walk. His levels of physical levels of things that he could do was really depleted. He barely do anything, and then when he did do something, he was in agony for days afterwards. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think it was going downhill. Like,
When I had decided to catalogue Dad's characteristics throughout the change, I thought the reasons for why he had become so unbearable would become clear. But so far, this had not been the case. These traits were pitiable, not unlikable. If anything, they made me feel sorry for the man. That was until I realised that until this point, my list had been too superficial, and the real reasons for his downfall wouldn't be revealed until we took a closer look at the changes in his personality.
Now I'm just worried that we're ripping the piss out of some depressed cripple. But I don't think it was that, because he also lost all of his friends at that time. And I don't think he was just helpless. I think he was nasty as well. There was something else there.
He didn't every time he'd talk about his friends to me, he would just bitch about them and how stupid they are, how much smarter he is, and how no one listens to what he says even though he's so much smarter than them, and how they're all wrong and stuff. He wasn't being a pleasant person to be a friend with.
No wonder he had no friends, jeez.
Yeah, and I think from that point on, he only talks about himself and how impressive he is. If you were having a conversation with him after this, you never felt like he was listening to you. He was just letting you talk long enough so that he could cut you off and then talk about himself.
See, and I don't think that's depression, because depressed people, they don't think highly of themselves.
No, I don't think they do.
He was constantly, he's the best. Everything he says is like gospel almost. He loves himself. He does.
He really does. And he has this weird thing too of if there's something awkward or unpleasant, he'll have to bring it up. He can't not mention it. And even if it's going to really hurt someone's feelings, he'll say it. He loves telling me that I've put on weight. And it's last time he saw me, one of the first things he said was "Oh, you're getting fat." And it's man, I'm not fat. I'm not bodybuilding like I used to, but I'm still in better shape than most of the population. But he always feels the need to tell you.
Yeah, he does. I remember once when I was younger and stuff, and I was living in a flat at the time, and he came to visit, and then when I opened the door, he went, first thing he said, not even a hello, whatever, geez, you've put on weight. And I was I was a size 10, you know what I mean? I was super skinny, and I was what do you mean I've put on weight? I was it's nice to see you too, you know what I mean?
He's done the same thing to me. I went and visited him, and then he goes, when girls put weight on, some outfits are no longer appropriate for them to wear. And I said, what are you talking about?
What were you wearing?
Yeah, exactly. What were you wearing? A tank top or something? A boot?
I was wearing shorts and a shirt.
How short? Leather shorts?
Were they those, the Kylie Minogue, those little gold ones that, have a flash of butt there?
Just normal shorts. They're above the knee, but they weren't booty shorts or anything.
I've never seen you dress revealing, so I'm sure it was normal.
And it's just not appropriate.
I was the same weight that I am now. I'm pretty much the same outfit that I would have worn the last time you guys saw me.
After editing this last part together, I felt like I had painted a somewhat complete picture of Dad post-human form. He was bitter and dirty and full of alcohol and cigarette smoke, but he was also self-obsessed and a little nasty and annoyingly condescending. And on top of all of this, he cried a lot too, which apparently bothers me more than it does anyone else. But as complete as this picture seems, it's not quite finished yet. There is still one other trait that needs to be added to bring this portrait to life. A trait that is difficult to define and can really only be shown through examples. This elusive trait is something I like to call weirdness.
I'd been watching him decline for a good couple of years there. He was just a bit more, I don't know, erratic, drunk, and strange. There was the weirdness levels started going up.
Well, it's like the explosive love thing. Who calls their son and then asks them to help them write some perverted sex song about their girlfriend?
The now legendary explosive love phone call is a prime example of the weirdness factor that I'm talking about. Because this wasn't just a phone call with an idea for a song Dad had come up with. He believed that this was our ticket to fame and fortune.
But then believes that AC/DC, the band AC/DC, will want to release this song. That is so diluted. It's just ridiculous.
But this phone call wasn't just an idea. It was an hour-long pitch meeting designed to motivate me to action.
He's so excited, and he says to me, so I've got this idea, and he said it came to me in a dream, and I've got the whole song mapped out. But he said in the dream, what it was, AC/DC was on stage, and you had all the band members in the back, and they're just now on the guitars, and they're just going ding, 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 but not moving, completely still, just like ding, 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 ding. And then in the front, you've got Bon Scott on the mic, and he just goes, "You can't get enough of my..." And then the band behind him, they all say at the same time, "Explosive love." But when they say it, they don't move. They stay completely still. They're just going ding, 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 ding on the guitars. And then Bon Scott back on the mic, he says, "You can't feel my..." And again, behind him, "Explosive love." And then he said, but then as it's going like ding, 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 it's building up. It's going ding, 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 ding. And it's getting louder. You can feel it building up. And then Bon Scott says, "You can't taste my..." And he said, that's when it explodes. And he just says, "Explosive love." And he said he screams it out. And then Angus jumps on the guitar and he just starts going, just going crazy. And the whole band's going wild. And the crowd is screaming. And he said, that's it. Like, I'm sure that is the next AC/DC smash hit. And all I need you to do now is run off and write the song for me. Write the song for me, maybe rip a demo tape for me, give it back to me, and then that's it. I'll make us millionaires. Don't worry. I'm a musical producing genius. It's not a problem.
Did he actually sing this for you?
Word for word, just like I did then. and the other thing was he just kept mentioning how it was about him and Mary and about how they have this super passionate sex life.
Sounds wrong.
It was wrong.
Ugh.
Did he pitch the song to either of you two, or was it just me that he pitched the song to?
So he told me that he had heard that Angus was having an interview with a radio station, and he called in when that interview was happening and apparently talked to Angus about his song, and Angus gave his word that he would definitely listen to the song once he had finished it.
Yeah, that's what Dad told me as well. He said that he spoke to Angus Young on the air and he was really interested in the song. And then from that, Dad got the hook up with his management team. And so he had a direct line. So as soon as I got some sort of pitch together, then we could get it to them. And then that was it. We'd be on Easy Street.
Oh my God.
I know. It's so cringy. But he also said that he was happy to give them the first song for free because he knows it's going to be such a mega hit. But then after that, when they come back begging for more songs, then he'll be able to charge whatever he wants for all the songs after that.
How many songs is he writing?
I was going to say, did he have any more songs?
What's the next one? Explosive Penis.
Something that I've grown to love about making this podcast is the unexpected discoveries that only reveal themselves during extended, unedited conversations. Discoveries like Aria's memory cabinets, or camel spine violin bows, or pretty much the entire conclusion of the Big Red Undies episode. This next conversation with Ellie falls into that category.
All jokes aside, though, we don't think this interview actually happened, right? This was a complete fabrication that he made up for attention.
I couldn't find it.
I tried to find it as well. I could not find it, but it's not saying it didn't happen. There could have been a radio call interview thing that happened with him, and they could have had people calling up.
I assumed the whole interview was a fabrication by Dad, but it sounds like maybe you think it is plausible. Is there some hot take that you have here?
Has anybody ever called a radio station? It is extremely difficult to get through normally. If they say, call up the radio station, as if anyone's ever actually tried to call up for like a
Have you tried?
Do you know what? Yes, I did. So basically they said, call us and we'll just give you some money. And so I was like, we were in the car.
Were we like desperate for cash or something?
No, it was just on the radio, and I happened to be in the car, and I was like, I'll give it a call. So I called it, and then it was engaged like the entire time. So I left it for about 10 minutes. And then I was like, you know what? I'll call one more time. No, it wasn't 10 minutes, probably about, I don't know, 2 minutes or something like that. And then I went, I'll call one more time. And somebody answered and he's like, hey, what you doing? And I said, I'm just driving, like we're going on holidays, we're going up the coast kind of thing. And then he was like, just because you're the caller, you get $250. And I was like, what? Oh, that's awesome. And I was like freaking out.
Did you win? That's amazing.
I did. Yeah, I did. I won $250.
That is so cool. Why have you never told us this?
This was like years ago.
Ellie, what are you trying to prove with this story? Like, at first when you started talking, I thought you were going to prove that there was no way that Dad could have got through to the radio station. But now
But normally, if you try and call a radio station...
Dad just had to wait 2 minutes and then he was on.
No, this is... But no, I was just saying, but this is like...
You've disproved it now. I'm almost certain that he did make the call.
No, well, the thing is, normally it is extremely difficult to get through.
How do you know?
Because I've rang up for other things before.
How often do you call?
To be honest, it was like years ago. It's like 10 years ago or something. And
but how often do you call the radio station?
When they were doing like certain deals, or if they were, because sometimes they'd give away free tickets to a concert or something.
How much of this is a lie? None of this sounds like the truth.
It is. You can even ask Bruce. I won money from the radio station, but I used to actually call up.
You are a little weirdo, man. I swear, it's always...
It's not a weirdo.
You don't know. You're like the black sheep.
People ring up for like to win like tickets and things. That's what I used to ring up for.
You've never told us this ever.
I have never heard
and
this before.
It was. Have you guys never rang up a radio station to try and get free tickets for something?
Never.
Look, if you're trying to disprove that Dad spoke to Angus Young on the phone, then this story certainly doesn't do that.
No, this was the one time I had ever got through. What my point was is it's extremely difficult to get through because the phones, they block the phones, and then what they do is they open it up for literally a minute. So if you happen to ring in that specific time frame, you can get through.
It doesn't sound that
it is extremely difficult.
It doesn't sound like
extremely difficult.
You should have led with one of the stories about how you called for 10 minutes and never got an answer. Instead, you
got too excited about winning the money and had to tell us about it.
Sorry, I got excited because you were like, oh, have you ever done that? I was like, yeah. Of course I have.
I have to tell you about the time I won something.
Well, that was the only time because I was really excited because I won $250 and I was like really excited.
Look, here's what the question is. Is it busted, plausible, or is it solved?
Oh, man, it's plausible that he did get onto the radio station.
100% plausible. 100% plausible that he got on the radio station. So I don't think we can disprove this.
Absolutely plausible.
You are plausible.
But to speak to Angus...
It's done, Ellie.
Radio station.
Give up on it. It's done. You're not gonna...
Although I am choosing to cut away from this conversation here, this wasn't where it ended. And I feel like it should be known that Ellie is very, very passionate about this topic.
Honestly, you call up a radio station and find out how blinking hard it is.
I will never, ever call a radio station ever
What,
again.
not to win tickets to some thing that you want to go to?
But in the interest of time and my own sanity, it's time to move on. I saw very little of Dad during his changing phase. I was either travelling or studying or working. And if I'm being honest, I never made keeping in touch with any of the family members a priority. It's not something I'm proud of, but it's the truth. But about 4 years ago, I decided to change all that.
In touch with any of the family. But I'd come back, I'd settled down, I just bought a house, I had a serious girlfriend who I was pretty sure I was going to marry, and the house needed renovation, and Dad's good at renovations, so I thought it was a perfect idea. I'll get Dad to come stay up here for a while, he can do some of the renovations with me, at the same time he can spend some time with Lily and get that bond between the two of them, and it just seemed like a really beautiful, perfect idea. But I remember you straight away did not think it was a good idea at all.
Yeah, no.
I think that's exactly what you said to me the first time I told you about it.
I knew.
Yeah, you did.
I knew it was not going to be a good time for you. And I warned you. It is not going to be fun. You're like, no, it's cool. It's cool.
I think at the time I assumed one of two things. That Aria was either over-exaggerating Dad's condition or underestimating my ability to tolerate it. But as it turned out, she was 100% correct on both accounts. And so, with all these warnings ignored, Lily and I were excitedly optimistic about the upcoming visit.
Well, I was like, I don't know, like it didn't bother me like if he was gonna stay like weeks and stuff and like help out, because for me it was like, oh, score, like the house is gonna get done quicker. And you know, it's a big house, like we have plenty of room and stuff, so I thought like we wouldn't really notice him like that much, but
it didn't turn out that way, did it?
The fact of the matter was, Dad had gotten bad, unbearably bad, and his stay with us was filled with all of his usual changing phase traits. There was drinking.
I was like, oh, your dad is like, I think he's still drunk. And you were like, yeah, he probably is drunk.
There was crying.
You came in and like almost whispered to me like, oh, he's like crying and stuff.
There was weirdness.
What did he say? Like you should call and say that your dad had died or something?
Yeah, he told me to use him dying as an excuse for a lot of things.
It was weird, and I just thought, okay.
And sometimes there was all three at the same time.
But I mean, I woke up one morning, was gonna get ready for work, and I heard him sing in the bedroom.
I saw this firsthand. So I got up to take a piss and then I heard something. So I went out to investigate, and when I got there, his bedroom door was wide open with the lights on and his legs were kicking around. I actually thought he was having a seizure. But then when I looked in there, I saw that he had headphones on and he was sort of singing, like his mouth was going and his legs were kicking. But then also had these tears going down the side of his face, so he was weeping as well. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I saw that there was an empty bottle of vodka there, and then the whole room just stank of alcohol. So I think he'd just been drinking all night.
Oh, disgusting.
And on top of all of this, there was even dirty feet.
He walked inside with like dirty feet and leaving foot marks everywhere as
But to be honest, as unusual as all this behaviour was, it wasn't a deal breaker, and we could probably have put up with it, for the short term anyway. The problem was that he didn't want to leave.
So he was supposed to leave, and then I came home from work and I remember coming up and I was like, why is his car still here?
Well, it's because we had such a heartfelt goodbye the night before. And his pitch was that he was going to stay back until we finished all of our renovations. But at this point, the renovations had gone sour because he was refusing to do the renovations that we wanted to do. He was taking over and changing everything, and it was a disaster. Like, you remember what he wanted to do to our back deck?
That's when he was like trying to force you to do concrete?
Yeah, and he was literally on the phone ordering a concrete truck when I was at work, and I was arguing with him not to because we'd already ordered the tiles that we wanted out there. But that's not even the worst of it. Do you remember the other thing that he wanted to do on the back deck?
No, what was that?
He wanted to put a toilet on there.
Oh.
I mean, it's
Oh my
ludicrous.
God.
We have 3 toilets in our house already.
Yeah, I
What?
don't want a fucking toilet in my backyard.
Dad extending his visit was a big problem for us that dominated all of Lily and I's conversations behind closed doors. I did want him to leave, but at the same time, I didn't want to kick him out. I have no idea how he would react to that, but the clock was ticking. He had already made plans to redesign our kitchen, and I wasn't sure how long we could hold him off before he started ripping out our countertops.
I wanted me to like keep that ugly big sink that we had with like the drain board, and like he was like, no, this is what you need and blah, blah. I'm like, no, I don't want these things, and no, this is how, like, this is what everyone is using now and blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, this is old fashioned, like I don't want this. This is not, it doesn't work in the design that I want. Like, you know, I was gonna get an IKEA kitchen. That was the plan from the beginning. Like I wasn't gonna go anywhere else. I was gonna have an IKEA kitchen, and I think I had maybe already started playing around a bit on like the planner and like designed it and stuff.
Lily is Swedish. Of course she wants an IKEA kitchen. Lucky for me, and Lily's IKEA kitchen, during the second week of Dad's visit extension, he was forced to pack up and leave.
I think the second time he wanted to extend, well, I don't know, it didn't go ahead, like we didn't go ahead with it. I can't remember why.
Wasn't it his hip? Like he was off the waiting list or something?
Yeah, and I think what happened was he had a doctor's appointment or something
Hip
that
replacement
he
he was
needed to
getting,
go
yeah.
to. Yeah, so he couldn't extend it, but he really...
Dad had been on the waiting list for a hip replacement, and to our delight, his doctor had requested an appointment in anticipation for an upcoming surgery. But the problem was, as soon as the checkup was complete, Dad started calling us to organise his trip back.
So I'm kind of an asshole because after Dad left, I refused to take any calls from him because I knew he was just going to try and come back up, and I could not deal with him. But you were really respectful and you kept answering his calls. But it's kind of unfortunate because then you were the one who sort of had the hard conversation with him. Do you remember, like, how did that one go? How did you, can you tell me about that phone call?
He was like telling me, you know, I was thinking I could come up, and he did mention something specific. I do remember it being the cornice, and we were like, I was like, no, it's fine. Like, we just want to have a break. Like, we've worked so hard for like, you know, a whole year now, and we're just gonna take a break. And he was like, yeah, but this is why I want to come up and help you, because I'm gonna take this off your shoulders. Like, I'll do it for you, and you guys can relax, and it's good for your relationship. And he just kept going on, and I think it was just a 20-minute phone call, which was very short for being with your dad. But it was because I kept saying, you know, thank you very much for offering, but no. Like, it was just me for 20 minutes saying no, like,
wow,
no. And then I think he got angry, and obviously, like, we hung up. And to be honest, I have not spoken to him on the phone since that day, and it's been 3 years, almost 2.5, almost 3 years.
While it is sad that this phone call did ruin Lily and Dad's relationship, its results were undeniable, and we had our house back, and were looking forward to having some normalcy return to our lives. But little did we know that while this abnormal chapter of our lives had come to a close, a new, more deranged one was about to begin.
So we went to bed on your birthday.
Yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks after you'd had the phone call with him.
And the day after, when we woke up, I had a missed call from Arya, which was really weird because, like, I think at that point, like, we didn't really call each other and stuff. And I remember saying, I was like, I have a missed call from Arya. Like, this is really weird.
Yeah, because then I checked my phone and I saw that it had been blowing up all night and there was missed calls all over it. And I said, wow, I think something serious has happened because this is really unusual. And I gave Arya a call straight back.
Yeah, and then I think she said, like, Dad tried to commit suicide or something.
Yeah, so she said that yesterday, on my birthday, Dad had tried to commit suicide. So he tried to hang himself, and Mary had found him in his shed, and that he'd been taken into a mental health care facility, and they were keeping him there. We didn't know when he was going to get out for evaluation to make sure that he wasn't a threat to himself or to anyone else.
Dad's changing phase was a years-long saga that began during his relationship with Mary and only intensified over time. During this phase, he was unpredictable and impossible to deal with, and he seemed bent on making everything more difficult than it needed to be. But underneath all of that, he was still our dad, and we could always catch glimpses of that larger-than-life character who we all admired so much. But remember, this was only the second of 3 phases, and fittingly, his attempted suicide marked the death of the changing phase and the beginning of his rebirth. His rebirth into what, I hear you asking? Well, for the answer to that question and many more, you're just going to have to wait until season 2. But in the meantime, while you're waiting, I do have a favour to ask. If any of our listeners happen to be in contact with Angus Young or any of the ACDC management team, maybe you could flip them this demo tape that I put together. Thanks.
Why don't you come on over here and take a seat on Granddaddy's lap? And then we can talk about the first thing that pops up. I know you feel it. So baby, it shows. And if the pressure keeps building up, better watch out below. It's my explosive love. Explosive love. Explosive love. Explosive love. Love, love.
Thanks for listening to Season 1 of our podcast. Creating these episodes has been an unexpected and rewarding journey that we hope to continue for many seasons to come. And you'll be glad to know that Ellie, Aria, and I have already started producing Season 2 and need your feedback and ideas for future episodes. If you do want to get in contact, there are links in the description to our socials and email address, which is eggshellvampire@gmail.com. That's eggshellvampire@gmail.com. Oh, and by the way, there's also a link to access the full, unedited Explosive Love demo tape in the description too. Finally, and I can't stress this enough, if you've enjoyed these episodes, get your friends to listen to them. This kind of word-of-mouth support makes a huge difference. Walking on Eggshells with an Emotional Vampire is written, edited, and recorded by me, Lucas Shaw. Thanks for listening.